Welcome back. This lesson we will be introducing a lure to our dogs. The lure is when we take a food reward and we manipulate their body position and their behavior through them following the food reward until we mark and pay. So, just like you saw last time with Shiloh being lured into certain positions, we are going to work on developing that with our dogs starting now. So, there are multiple ways that you can lure, and certain ways are going to be better for certain situations, different people, different dogs. The first type of lure, the pinch, in between your thumb or your index finger, or these three fingers, okay? The one thing I want to point out with this lure is that this typically will get your fingers nibbled on a little bit. If your dog takes treats rudely, it's going to lead to them possibly causing a little bit of pain. But if this happens to you, I want you to really focus on not dropping the treat and pulling your hand away. What this will do is it'll create a behavior within your dog where they begin to snap at the treat because they are expecting you to drop it and withdraw your hand. They are going to expect they have to catch the treat out of the air. This will develop more and more chomping as time goes on if we do it like this. So, if you're finding your dog takes treats rough like this, just grin and bear it, present it, have them nibble on it, pull your hand away. Do it again. If they nibble on your fingers, pull your hand away. Wait for them to gently try to take the treat. Mark with yes and pay. Another option is to cup the treat in your hand. You can do this with multiple treats or just one. This is where you're just going to hold it like that. You can use it in the heel position to lead them like this. You can use it really for the downs. You can do all sorts of stuff with this position. You're just going to notice it's not really good for luring into an SIT or different positions like that where it's just not going to present that food the correct way for your dog. Another option is to trap the lure with your thumb like so. This will allow the dog to see the treat, smell the treat, and lick the treat, following the lure very easily, but they won't be able to pull it out of your hands until you say so by removing that thumb. Another cool part about the thumb trap is that you can trap multiple treats in your hand at once. This is not the easiest method to do when you're new at luring, but over time, as you get better, you'll get better at this method. The cool thing about this is that you can use it for duration. If I have a dog in the heel position and I'm luring them around, I can say, good, let them have one of the treats, keeping them going. They receive the food reward. They're motivated to keep moving along with us. They're getting the treat, but they're not breaking position. Good. Another one comes out. Good. Another. Yes. I was able to use 3 duration markers and a terminal marker with all 4 of these treats with one type of lure. Another option is the fist. You have a bunch of treats in your hand. Line them in your knuckles right there. Now you close your hand up and you have a little cup, but it's closed by your fist. Your dog is going to follow this little hole where they can smell the treats and they can smell the odor coming out. And as they're walking, you can do the same thing as the thumb method, but this one's a lot easier to do when you're new. You have a lot more control over these treats in your hand. So as I'm going, I can let my dog get access to more and more treats as we go. As you notice, I can say, good, present that treat. As we move along and they get more and more treats, good. Open up that hand to present more treats. The more fingers you remove from the equation, the further into the stack of treats along your knuckles that your dog can gain access to. You can also do this from the front. So if you're encouraging your dog with a recall, for example, and you want to encourage them to stay with you, you can lure them from the front with this hole. Opening your fingers as you go, presenting more and more treats, increasing the duration of that repetition without having to reach back into your training pouch and get more treats for your dog. The reason I show you all these different types of lures is just so you can decide what works best for you in certain situations. Not every single lure is going to be ideal for every single manipulation. So if we're trying to do a sit, doing the thumb technique is not the easiest. Putting my hand like this, my wrist only bends so far back, and I got to drag it over their head. Doing this might be a lot easier. Doing this might not be so easy. Okay? Doing this in the heel may not be as ideal as this or the thumb trap. My point is, as you go through this training, you're going to figure out the right way to lure for you and your dog as a team. What works best for you in this situation? What works best for you in that situation? As you develop your skills alongside your dog, you will figure out what works best for you and when. For the first part of this lesson, we are going to use a chair in replacement of a dog. That way I can show you with nice, slow movements what we are doing and the purpose behind each of these movements, okay? Now, when it comes to luring, we are not taking the treat and shoving it into our dog's mouth, okay? This can frustrate the dog and they're just gonna pull their head back. We are going to bring it directly to their face and let them meet us the rest of that ½ inch or so, all right? Then we are just going to glide and guide their face into positions, manipulating their body. So for the sit command, we'll grab a treat, present it, slowly glide it over the dog's head. As their head follows, their butt is going to go down. When their butt touches the ground, mark with yes, pay the dog. We're also going to be luring all these positions from our sides as well, just so our dog can gain fluency in these behaviors at a quicker rate. So it might look like this with the finger pinch. From the side, I like to use my hand like this or the thumb trap. So you'll present it in front of your dog's face. You'll lure. As soon as butt touches ground, yes, pay. Same for the other side. To help our dog gain fluency, we'll do it in the front and both sides. So go ahead, reach into your treat pouch. Lure from this side as well. Yes, pay. Now you're going to know as you're luring, when your dog is new at this, they're not necessarily going to just follow your hand and put their butt down. A lot of times dogs will just reach their head up and have no idea of their rear end awareness, and they won't really use their butt to get their head up higher. If this is the case for you, you might have to use more than just a lure, but you might have to use some molding techniques as well. So as you lure your dog, you may find additional help by using your hand to lightly guide your dog to put their butt down. So why do we have to help our dogs gain fluency in their commands? Why can't we just lure them from the front and call it a day? We do it from the sides as well because dogs do not generalize commands. They need to be shown multiple pictures because they quite literally learn in pictures. If I simply train my dog to sit with this being the only position, luring in front of me, this is what sit will mean to my dog. Sit is butt down and this image right in front of me. The image that he sees is his handler standing in front of him at this distance and his butt down. To him, that is sit. So if my dog is at my side and I've trained him how to sit and I can use the verbal command, he knows it, and I stand here and I tell him, sit, and he doesn't sit, it's because he doesn't understand what that means when he's right there. Chances are he will perform the sit command, but he's going to swing his butt back around in front of you and face you this way. Because to him, sit isn't only putting the butt on the ground, it's having the butt on the ground with this picture. The same goes for location. If I train my dog how to sit in my living room next to the coffee table, they may not understand what I'm asking for when I go outside into the yard and I ask my dog for a sit, even if they are directly in front of me. It's a different picture overall. So we need to help our dogs gain fluency of these commands and help them generalize the commands over time throughout the program. We do this by luring in different positions from the left, the right, and in front of us, but we also do this by introducing new training environments slowly and steadily throughout the program. It's very important not to rush this, so we will do it over time. When introducing a new environment, we need to lower our criteria and help our dog understand that this means the same thing here as it did where you learned it. So you might just have to go back to luring a little bit in each position in that new environment to help your dog understand, oh, sit means sit here as well, same as it did next to the coffee table. When it comes to the down command, we are going to lure our dog into a sit first. That's because if we try to bring our dog down to the ground through the lure, they're only going to bring their face down and not their entire body to become flush with the ground. So if we get their butt to get on the ground first and then lure their face, our chances of them lowering and becoming flush with the ground without lifting their butt up are going to increase. So, lure into a sit, drag the lure down the chest, down the abdomen, and then like an L shape across the floor, so they can slowly extend their body and follow that lure into a flush position on the ground. Once their front legs and their back legs and their abdomen are flush against the ground, yes, pay. We're also going to do this from the side. Lure into a sit, drag down the chest and abdomen, across the ground, yes, pay. Same as this side. Lure into a sit, down chest and abdomen, cross ground, yes, pay. Now, obviously, this looks a lot easier when I'm using a chair. Every single rep is going to be successful with this trusty companion right here. So you can expect that this is not going to go as smoothly when you have your dog on the leash. It's going to be frustrating because your dog's not going to understand what you're asking. This is a new skill. Following a lure takes practice, and presenting a lure to a point where your dog can follow it easily is also a skill that you will get better at. Be patient with yourself, be patient with your dog, and understand you guys are learning together. If you find yourself running into an issue like this, for example, when you lure your dog into the sit for the down and you start dragging it down, their butt pops up. That happens very often with many dogs. That might require a different technique. So that might require a slower lure to encourage their butt to stay down. Or it might require you to do the same thing with your hand. Maybe you have your hand on their butt, slowly guiding them down. So that little bit of pressure that you're using with your hand can keep their butt down as they bring their head down and extend across the ground. Another option would be using your leg. So if you're having a hard time, you can use this method. Show your dog the treat, put it in your other hand, lure them under your leg. As they go under your leg, lower your knee, not hard, just slightly, so that way they feel the contact on their back. This should be enough pressure to lower them into a down. So, as soon as they do that, and their body is flush with the ground, yes, pay. Continue to do that, slowly decreasing the need for the leg. Bring it out, luring down. They will start putting this picture together and reduce the need for the leg. If it's hard for you to get down on the ground like it is for me some days, sometimes my knees and my back are really, really painful, and I'll use the chair method. So I'll sit here, and instead of kneeling down, and I will lure the dog under my leg, a little bit of pressure, slowly extinct it, lure the dog in front of your leg, a little bit of hand pressure on the body, lure him down, eventually doing that, and then that will translate to the dog more easily, and you'll be able to do the initial down drag across the ground. We'll also introduce the place command. We do not need to lure our dog into a down at first. Right now, the criteria will just be getting our dog to be comfortable stepping all four paws onto the bed. Then we will mark and pay. So we will lure, encourage our dogs to get on. As soon as all 4 feet are on the bed, yes, pay. The place bed can be intimidating for some dogs at first, and not every dog will just rush up on it. My little dog Shiloh had to take a long time before she was comfortable even approaching this thing. The material's different than what they're used to. It has some give. They've never seen an item that looks like this. All of these things can make your dog a little bit nervous to step on this bed. One of the things that I did to help Shiloh get over it, and you can do too if your dog runs into this issue, flip the bed upside down. This will at least get rid of the intimidation of stepping up onto it. It'll get rid of that give. And now your dog will just experience a different sensation and feel on their paws rather than all 3 of those things making it an intense experience. Go ahead and lure your dog across this. When they get all 4 paws on, yes, pay. This is how we can slowly build our dog's confidence to get on this place bed. After they're doing that, no problem, flip it back over and reintroduce it like so. At this point, your dog should be less intimidated. I wouldn't doubt that they'll still show a little bit of nervousness or fear, but it'll be a lot easier to influence them with a lure to get on the place bed. So at that point, lure them on and make it a payday. If this is a situation for you, you're definitely going to want to pay that with a jackpot. A jackpot is used when our dog makes a big jump in progress during training. So for example, in this situation, moving from having to do this to being comfortable getting on this for the first time, that's a massive jump in the dog's progress during the training program. So jackpotting at that moment is going to be extremely valuable to show the dog that this is exactly what we wanted to do. It's going to encourage them to want to do it again in the future, and it's going to increase their confidence. Whether or not your dog had a difficult time getting onto this, we are at the point where we're luring, all four are on, we're marking and paying, okay? The next step is going to be adding in luring into a down, okay? So now we're increasing the criteria. We lure onto the bed, all four are on, we lure into a down. Once they go into a down, we will mark and pay. I'm going to suggest that you do not add the component of the down into the place command yet if your dog is struggling with luring into a down in general. Wait until your dog is starting to become more proficient with luring into a down before you add that to the place training. Let's talk about the first stages of building the recall, otherwise known as come when called. I like to use the fist lure with a bunch of treats. I will lure, let them scoop, and then I will reverse the lure, and as soon as they turn and commit to following the lure, I mark with yes and pay. This is the first step to building the habit of your dog turning towards you and coming towards you. As your dog gets more and more proficient with changing the direction and coming back towards you, increase the criteria a little bit by making them commit a little bit more to returning to you and then marking yes. So instead of luring, turning, and then immediately marking as soon as they turn, we might increase that criteria by luring, turning, jogging a little bit backwards, and once they take 2 or 3 steps, yes, let them get the reward. That's how we'll increase that distance they're willing to come back to you. When it comes to building the heel, we're going to start by building a massive reward history for our dog hanging out right in this position next to us. A reward history is when a dog has been paid a massive amount of times in a certain position or a certain location, and they develop a massive value for that position or location. So as we do this, we'll have our dog walking next to us. We're not giving any commands. We are just luring and having our dog follow, making easy turns left, making easy turns right, continuously letting our dog slowly scoop treat after treat out of our hand, so that way it encourages them to stay in this position. The more treats they get in this position, the higher the reward history, the higher the likelihood of them wanting to be in this position. Later on in training, we will increase the heel criteria by expecting our dog to have an auto sit when we stop moving. What I mean by that is while we're walking with our dog in the heel command, when I stop, my dog should stop and go into a sit automatically. That is the auto sit out of heel. To help build this auto sit, we can have our dog sitting next to us, whatever side you like your dog to heel on, and lure them from a sit into movement and back into a sit. Over and over and over again, okay? One step at a time. As your dog gets better and better at that movement, increase the amount of steps. So now I'm taking 2 steps and then returning them into a sit. As you get better, 3 steps, 4 steps, more and more and more, ending in an auto sit. When it comes to the heel and creating this command, it's very important to note where you are placing your hand for the reward history. If we do it all the way up here, our dog is going to create a reward history where their body is more forward ahead of us and creating a habit of them forging further ahead. If we do it too far back, our dog will stay too far behind us. If we do it way out here, our dog is going to stay further away from our bodies. So as we're doing this, we want to consistently do it wherever we prefer our dog to remain in the heel. When I train dogs, I prefer to keep their head slightly behind me. So I try to lure with my hand either right next to my leg or an inch or 2 in front of it. The reason I do this is because some dogs develop reactivity, whether it's based in fear or dominance later in life. And if you're going to deal with this, it's easier if you're the one in the lead. A dog that leads in a pack is the one who deals with potential threats when they arise. So we want to show our dogs that we are here to guide them and handle everything that comes our way. It is not their job to react. So when I create this habit of hanging out right here, I'm creating a habit of letting my dog understand that I am going to handle situations when they present themselves.